Ghahate, Cache, and greetings from the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. We are here today to commemorate Native American Alaska Native Heritage Month. And we want to take this time reaching out to you on the digital media of the internet to tell you why it's important to us, but also equally important to you to acknowledge the lives, the influences, and the contribution of the indigenous peoples here in the Western Hemisphere. We take this time to acknowledge the fact that without those peoples who preceded us, we as indigenous people would not be here. But at the same time, we look into the future, we look toward the future to ensure that the stories, the lives, and most importantly, the voices of those who preceded us will not be forgotten. Here in the Western Hemisphere, there were many different cultures, many different societies, many different languages that made all these distinct communities distinct and different from one another. And so, in many ways, they were just as diverse as we think about this country in the year 2020. We think about the contributions that involve problem solving, process improvement, science, technologies, different skill sets that allowed these groups of human beings to develop societies that had social structures. Perhaps they had some type of governance that allowed them to live in stable societies. They had developed architectural constructs, agrarian constructs. They used science and technology to ensure that there was enough food to go around for everyone, to build the structures that allowed them to live out of the environment. So we commemorate and celebrate that when we think about Native American Alaska Native Heritage Month. We commemorate them. When we think about also education and how we want to take ownership of that narrative and how it applies to us, and so we want to make sure that our stories, we take ownership of that. We ensure that our lives are just as important as well as the knowledge that we share to pass on to those into the future. Here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, our mission statement to preserve and perpetuate the Pueblo culture is only one small, very small component of all the indigenous communities that lived here in the Western Hemisphere. However, we know that those stories, that narrative is just as important to our brothers, the Haudenosaunee, Lakota, our Dene neighbors. All of them are important, but we as Pueblo people work to ensure with respect and certainly a certain degree of responsibility to make sure those stories are told. So in November, when we commemorate Native American and Alaska Native heritage, we include all these stories of who we are as human beings. And we claim that right because it is our right to claim it, to tell our stories the way we want it to be told. And so we want to express to you through the digital media of the internet that although you're not able to visit with us here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, there are many ways in which you can experience what we want to help our guests understand. We invite you to go to the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center website at indianpueblo.org. You'll find different kinds of resources. There'll be our Indigenous Wisdom curriculum, different avenues and opportunities for participating in many different ways. And so that's how you as an individual can participate as well. Thank you for visiting with us here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. There are different opportunities for you to learn. And until we get a chance to meet again, face-to-face, person-to-person, take care, be safe, and wear your masks. And we look forward to you visiting with us here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center.